as we think about the future of the public library, it's important to not just hold on to our past vision of what the library is and how we remember it being. And so with that spirit, I'll offer a few controversial ideas, that caveat being I wouldn't necessarily implement them, but they're things I think we can certainly think about. There is a library, I believe it was in Singapore, that is technologically controlled in terms of access. So there's no staff. In and out through your library card, and the resources and the public space. Now they do have staff during service hours, but they're open very long hours. So at a certain point, it's just access to the public space and the collections, and reference service starts the next day. Is that right or wrong? I don't know, but it's something that someone else is doing. Traditionally in public libraries, we only offer library service when the library's open hours are scheduled. So for example, if we have a branch library in Vancouver that's Tuesday to Saturday, then we only offer library service between Tuesday and Saturday. But because we can't afford to keep the whole branch open on a Monday or a Sunday. But what's stopping us from offering service in that community, even when the library's closed, if we can't keep it open, can we not offer a children's program or a family program on a Sunday afternoon? Even if the library's closed, we can use a community space. So I'm not advocating for not opening libraries, because I do believe libraries should be open, and I agree that they should be staffed. At the same time, I think we do need to challenge ourselves in some of our preconceptions about what library service should be and is, and think about what some of the other possibilities are and how we can stretch our existing resources further to offer service.
I think the challenge is that we're not going to see a big wallet open up for libraries. So we have to think, when we're going to make these steps as we are, that we have to be forward thinking. Of course there's going to be resistance, because for the most part we've always been reactive. The curve has always been ahead of how we've changed things at municipal decision making. And in this case, we have to talk boldly into the future, so that the library represents not just what it's going to be today, what it's going to be into the future, and what it's going to need to be, so that we can stay competitive. We can't just assume that if we open it up and we try to pick the most popular thing we see in social media or in the news and offer it, that's going to actually meld with the students or the youth of today. And I think that's probably something, when I talk about building the library for the future, I think the youth have to actually have a major role in this, just like the seniors have to have a role in it, because they're the ones that are on the edges of the technology bubble. They're coming in, and there's some on the way out in the senior years who maybe don't grasp all of it. We have to make sure that whatever we do is the programming and, of course, partnerships we have meet the needs of those people.
What I see as the really largest changes in our information is the amount of information that is being collected, distributed, and curated by individual members of the community rather than traditional figures of authority. And I think that what the library will need to do is to understand its key role with relationship to those sources of information, as opposed to simply being, a distributor and wrangler of conventional authority sources. Because I think that in the next 5 years or so, that's going to be the single largest change in the character of information, is that bottom-up, filtered and curated and produced mode of distribution.
Most of the time when I'm looking for information, I go to a search engine on the internet. And I think that those search results, what I would really like to see is that everything that my library could provide me, that should be listed there too. Same, one place to look it up. And I can choose to navigate to the library website, I can choose to go down to the library if I want, or I can choose to click on the link to a website at, dubious antecedents. But one place to find the resources. It could be the publisher for a self-published author. Your library could help you edit and place up for availability and to manage the revenue collection in some fashion, though that's maybe doesn't fit with free. But it could provide or help provide some services like that. The library is the playground for introverts. And there's an opportunity, I think, especially for youth, to provide access to gallery space, possibly virtual gallery space, Cloud services, what if you're 15 and you want to do something on a cloud compute engine? Well, the library could help facilitate that kind of thing. And also access to experts. I read about how there's some libraries provide a borrow an expert, and that's if you're you can't hire a consultant. It would be wonderful to be able to borrow an expert in an area that interests you. And then the physical space that Wendy mentions, I think that would be very important as well, to have rooms where small groups of people can gather for more discussion, conversation, learning.
One of the things that's been happening in Denmark, for example, the leading edge stuff in Denmark is people create media. They don't just play media, but they're labs for actually creating stuff. And I think that's going to be one of the expectations of the future.
I would encourage thinking about the library as the community's informal learning organization. And I guess just one plug for a content-specific piece is that I think we need to really, all libraries need to really figure out the digital divide. I think it's fundamental, and that has to somehow be addressed. Libraries that aren't having these types of conversations need to start now. And I think that when we start to think about what the future of the library is going to be, it's really important that we don't base our vision of the future on a nostalgic past, and that we don't base it on our experience of the public library now or in the past, or on our experience of our school library, or whatever images that we have, that we think about how the future of knowledge, information exchange, creation is going to happen. And then where does the role of the public library as the community organization that pools the resources of the community together so that individually we have access to more than we could alone based on our own resources. So how does that fit into this new world of knowledge exchange? And I'm not saying print is dead or is not going to be there, but I think the future of publishing is digital. And it's not necessarily going to be 2 years from now, but I'd hunch a lot sooner than faster than any of us really do expect.